Good evening, gentlemen and ladies, or probably one lady watching, two, maybe three ladies watching, and a few silent ones we're hoping. But welcome to the agenda, guys. Bath time. It feels like I haven't seen you in ages. How you doing, big man?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm really good, thanks. I'm almost completely snowed in, so I'm not going to work tomorrow. But unfortunately, I forgot to buy alcohol, so I'm sober this evening, which is a bit of a disaster. And
Yeah,
hello,
you,
ladies.
yeah, you finished you finished it during your 2 hour stint on Monday, more than likely. So look, that's what happens when you rabbit for too long. On Monday, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I can't believe it's snowing like in part of the country right now.
Seems weird, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't believe that at all. Thankfully, we live in London, where it's majority of the time it's warm, unlike in Ireland, especially Northern Ireland. Isn't that right, Stefan?
Oh yeah, we got a snow warning, we got a weather warning tonight. I'm looking forward to it. If I disappear, I've probably lost power, so excuse me if so, but hopefully be all good.
Pat, I've seen you, but I haven't seen you, senior. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing all right, lads. I don't know where all this snow is coming from. You want to keep that to yourselves?
I'm thinking the same bloody thing, boy. But look, before we go any further, Jeff, I see your thumbs up, mate. Appreciate the work, man. Thank you very, very much for what you're doing backstage, and yeah, let's hope it bears some sort of fruit. Ronak, sure, wrong one. Ronak. Welcome to the madness, my friend. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. Stephanie, hiya, famous five. Thank you very much.
Fabulous five.
I can't see. It's Baltic. Oh, it's Baltic in Northern Ireland tonight, and we've got 10 likes, 8 watching. I don't know how that's worked, but well done, guys. Somebody's obviously got a double account or a burner, but we'll take that, to be fair, guys. Obviously, news broke yesterday, the day before, that United may well be rebuilding Old Trafford. Maybe. I want to get your thoughts on a couple of things, to be fair. Obviously, guys in the chat, look, more welcome to join in. Let me just get this up here. The Daily obviously it was when Ineos came in, that was one of their suggestions. I did hear an interview, David Gill saying that the roof's been leaking from when he was there, but nobody seemed to care because they were winning. So look, it's been going on for a long time. But look, the Daily Telegraph reports that the cost of Old Trafford, extending Old Trafford, is going to be 800 million, whereas a new ground's going to cost between 1.5 to 2 billion. Tottenham's new stadium cost around 1.2 billion, according to Spurs owner Daniel Levy in an interview. Now, if 1.2 is going to get a stadium like White Hart Lane, what are we thinking? Are we thinking this is something that we can't do, something that we should be doing? Do you think it's a disgrace that they're even contemplating maybe moving bits and pieces? Also, United could fund the government, could lobby the government. I don't understand. Bath time, I want you to explain to me what this levelling up pledge is, please. But I did hear an interview with mate, the mayor of Manchester, and he was very, very boisterous in the fact that he will do whatever it takes to help United get their feet back on the ground, I suppose, stadium wise. So guys, can I have a couple of thoughts on that? Also, before we do dip any further, obviously this is the land now owned by Manchester United. You can see it there marked off in red. It is quite obvious, to be fair. You can see where the stadium is in blue, unless you guys are watching in black and white, in which case then there's a sort of circly thing in the middle there. Could the stadium be built anywhere else? Could they do what Tottenham did and sort of build build while the state, while games are being played? Thoughts, guys? And on Monday, could you hold some of these messages in the chat, please? Let me take this off so that we can see our big heads. There we go. Everybody's silent. Is it that bad?
Well, you got to ask Mr. B, the host. Like, who are you asking?
Well, you know what? as Pat suddenly magically moved to right next to me, Pat, I'm going to go with you, my friend. Thoughts?
Um, I'm a little bit excited about the whole stadium thing. I'm not getting too excited about it. I say this for last time from the likes of Jim Radcliffe being asked what's your plans for the future, and he would say, "Yeah, we'd like to improve the stadium. We'll put that on the list. We'll put it on the whiteboard, and we might get to that in time." And it just gives people something to talk about. But to, I just can't see. I can't see us building another stadium beside us, and what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do with the land of the existing one? Just knock it down and build a hotel on it or something? I'd say surely to God you can revamp it and make it bigger for a higher capacity.
Revamp, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh.
With all the modern day engineering, I'm sure there's something they can do to increase the capacity and not have to worry about whatever it is behind it, the train lines.
Stefan.
Yeah, of course. Look, I would agree with what Pat was saying. I think it's logistically difficult. You've got a canal on one side, and you've got train lines on the other, so you're kind of squeezed in that kind of corridor of land that we do have. There's obviously some space behind the existing ground. Look, I'm very much of the opinion that we need a lot of change to it. So it's about what's going to be most feasible to do, because if we spend what £800 million as being reported on revamping, then in 20-30 years time we're going to find ourselves in the same position, having to spend that same amount of money again, and maybe a new stadium would be the smarter of the two business wise. I don't know. I think it would be very sad to leave Old Trafford, but as people pointed out to me in my own comments as well, Old Trafford was built in 1910. The original stadium's gone, the original turf's gone, the original pitch is gone, even the Old Stretford end is gone as well. So if we end up building a new stadium on the same ground and call it Old Trafford, is it just a continuation of the same kind of legacy? I don't know. I think it's a very difficult, emotional decision to make as well. And I'm sure a lot of business influence will go into that one as well, because I don't think it's going to be a purely sporting decision. So I would imagine the Glazer family will have somewhat of a say on that, but we'll find out how it goes.
Half time. As how long have you been at your club? The club that you play for now?
Since COVID.
So it's only 3 years.
Yeah.
How long have they been there before you were there?
About 90.
So how do you think they would feel about leaving their ground to go to pastures new? Do you think they would be worrying about, are we being a bit too emotional as fans?
I don't think we are, right? And I'll tell you why. Okay, because what Stefan has said is pretty correct. It's like you can either look at it, depending on how pretentious you want to be, as the ship of Theseus or Trigger's broom, which is like
Trigger's broom. I like that one.
Yeah, because it's like he's replaced the handle 50 times. He's replaced the other parts of the broom, the engine, all sorts of things. And is it the same broom? But the problem for me, right, is that it's a fairly easy decision. Like Old Trafford's over 100 years old. It's not fit for purpose. Like because it was built like over 100 years ago. It's not a great place to watch a football match. There aren't big screens there. Like if we spend 800 million or 10 Maguires, we're just delaying the inevitable, because we're gonna have to redo it and stuff. And I suspect that Radcliffe and the lads have seen some architecture plans, and they're really excited about having this massive sort of ashtray-like stadium. But for me, I'm dead against rebuilding Old Trafford, despite everything that I've said, because I didn't know my grandfather, right? And my grandfather went to Old Trafford in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. That's my connection to him. Like how many of us here and in the comments have been at that ground with our fathers or our brothers or our sisters or whatever? And it's like, for me, it's what connects you to your family. And so if we leave that place, I think we lose all of that. We lose that shared connection. And then there's other things, like things will get nasty because there's be like compulsory purchasing orders and things like that, and the stadium.
Well, even that, but they own it all. So we would yeah.
My understanding is it's the other side of the like railway terrace on the other side would need to you can't do construction work like with those terraced houses there, like on the other side of the tracks, and that they would need to be bought up. I mean, ideally, we issue a compulsory purchase order for hotel football and knock it down. Because I also don't want like cinemas and hotels, and I don't like the sort of Disneyfication of football grounds.
So you don't want it Spursified?
No, not at all. I think because what I don't want is just a generic shiny stadium like the Emirates.
Okay, a Monday. I'm going to come back to that, but we can't leave a Monday hanging. So yeah, same question on Monday. Although
I want to ask. Yeah, I'll let the comments go through some comments here. Rebuild 90,000 retractable roof and pitch from Ranek. Talk about weather. Stephanie Griffiths says Baltic in Northern Ireland tonight. I don't know if you agree with that. Jim the janitor wants to be Bob the builder, says Stephanie Griffiths. Ed Mayhem say here, renovate, no rebuild. The stadium is part of our proud tradition. Simply no rebuild for me. And that's from Top Fam. Ed Mayhem. Bilal saying, I'm all for a new stadium. I miss Old Trafford though. So there he goes. There's the contrast. Jeff is showing off. It's 20 degrees sunny there in Texas right now. I don't know what the temperature is with DK Wilson, but he's saying good evening, folks. Jeff's in the house, as he said, look, the Breed says tear it down and build a new stadium with the entertainment district that brings money to Manchester as a whole. I'm going to come back to another comment Jeff made, because he hasn't been to Old Trafford. So he's saying, my heart says, I've never been there, and I want to see the stadium revamped and upgraded, and with a complete overhaul, with screens and all, as they have in most stadiums these days. What did Spurs do? What Spurs did, said Bilal, which is they've got the probably best stadium at the moment. We got Bilal again to knock down Trafford Centre and build the stadium there. Stephanie Griffiths is saying, needed a football village scenario, total modernisation, minimum 90,000 capacity. As United, we always fill it. Exactly bath time. Bilal's on your side. High five. DK Wilson saying here, when the stadium was built, it was state of the art. The legacy of Old Trafford is being ahead of the rest. Building a new stadium that's better than any other is also part of the legacy of Manchester United. That's a good comment there. Big up to Bart. He's saying downsize Old Trafford and make it a museum. And a woman and build new Old Trafford besides it and make it world class. You
can say that whatever way you want.
He got the reaction he wanted. Glazers are the anchors on everything concerned, says Stephanie. With United, that is the issue. Booms is saying here, home is where you make your memories. Memories is where you makes you feel home. But it is, be it new or old, Old Trafford is an idea. Give it time. Subvids, thanks for your outro vid. I love it. He's saying, yes, but look at some interesting buildings around there. There's an opportunity to make something amazing, new for me. I want to say hi to One Don MUFC 45. He says, new stadium, I think, it's for the young people. It's 2024. We need to upgrade to 100,000. And talking about the San Siro here, there's other refurbishments going on right now in big clubs. You've seen it with Barcelona, you've seen it with Real Madrid and the San Siro as well. And it looks like they might be splitting. Bart saying the San Siro is going into refurbishment at the end of the season. For the first time in a century, Old Trafford is revamping, would cost a whopping 800 million. Surely you can get a new stadium for that. Well, we just done that, haven't we? We can get one for what, 1.2. That's what Spurs did. My thoughts on it is this. I just want to add on what little research I've done today, or just reading the papers and just catching up. I think it'd be good for the community. You've got to sell it as we're going to make something like they did with the Olympic Stadium and that bid with the Olympics. It was a lot of money, a lot more than they actually anticipated with the Olympics. But you see what they've done, Mr. B, in Stratford, that area. They built up East London. It's now a popular area to live. I remember years ago, it must have been, 96, I was working, and there was a guy who bought a house in Stratford at the time. I'm in West London, obviously Stratford's in East London, and he said, "Nah, I'm buying my house here because he's obviously heard on the grapevine things are happening in that area." So I think if you want to sort of refurbish the whole area, because we've been up there, Mr. B, innit? Remember when we got been to Old Trafford? I'm not being funny, but it's not the nicest area. It's a bit run down, a bit poor. You know,
Liverpool,
we're in London, so this is, you know, we've got it's like snobs walking around here.
You had your nose up like a snob, bloody cheek.
I did. I thought it was really rough. But I think if you like, they talk about the public funds and that. Bath Time probably knows more about this than me. But I think that's a good idea. If you can get that, you know, I know fans might complain, but it's going to be, they call it the Wembley of the North. So as long as you add something to say your outcomes are going to include community activities, it would be good for the kids and or whatever. You're going to have something that's going to be attractive. It's going to create tourism or whatever. You have to sell it. And we've seen a lot of sales pitches lately with the selling of the club and now with the stadium. And I think they're doing a good job of it because we're making a big show on it and we're getting kind of excited. And now, from me thinking, let's just keep Old Trafford, I'm actually thinking now, I've changed my mind from their sales pitch to think maybe we should buy a new stadium.
Okay, Bath Time. There was something that you did mention. I actually wrote it down so that I didn't forget. Yeah. So, right. So if they do get a new stadium, supposing you're saying that you would want it just to be strictly a football stadium, no other incoming or out, because this is where Tottenham are making all of their money. The fact that they've got their retractable pitch, they get Beyonce concerts, they do this, they get boxing, they do that. If he's saying a Wembley of the North,
Beyonce does boxing.
No, did I say Beyonce does boxing?
No. You're bringing up when Anthony Joshua dressed up and did that stupid dance, and then got absolutely smacked up.
Look, but they still hosted boxing. So what my thing is, they do.
NFL.
It's like a sports arena.
Yeah.
You want it just as a strictly football stadium. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I don't like. Right, this might be me being like ultra traditionalist and things like this, but I don't like the Disneyfication of football grounds, of turning them into an experience. Like, I used to live in a small town in Spain called Huelva, and they had a football club there, and their stadium had loads of bars and things like that, and it's where everyone sort of went for nights out and things. And it was bloody awful. It was absolutely dreadful because I didn't think that it was what it should be, which is a football stadium. It was like they had like a day spa and a hotel and things, and I hated it because these places should be cathedrals to football. Like everyone should sort of like have a story about going to Old Trafford and it being about football. Like, I don't know if everyone in the comments knows, but one thing that I've always found very funny is that Solo, Amonde and Mr. B went up to see the Liverpool game, and Mr. B had to deal with Solo in the car for like 6 hours. And that's what I love about like football and sort of going to the stadiums, is that you have all these stories, but they're about football. And I feel that when we add these things like cinemas and experiences and stuff like that, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like the money lenders in the church from the Bible or something. I think it takes away from what it should be, which is it should be about the football and not about trying to get as much money from people as possible. And whilst I do want to see the community do well from it, you know, it's Manchester United, and we've declared open war on our fans for about 20 years with like ticket prices and the TRA and must and things. So I just think that turning it into a sort of a match day experience with all these different amenities, what it actually means is that it's just United going for day trippers and trying to get as much money out of people as possible. And I think it's bad for the community. So that's why I don't want it.
Stefan,
yeah.
The obviously Bath Time was mentioning there about the football experience. Are you with him? I mean, I do agree. I would like it to be just a football stadium. I don't want rugby played there. I don't want concerts played there. I don't want Beyonce in boxing gloves being there. What are your thoughts on that?
Do you know, I do agree with Boss Time in the sense that like it does kind of feel a little bit Americanized when you watch Tottenham or you watch Man City and they have light shows on before the match. It's like a concert before it actually gets going. I'm maybe more of a traditionalist. I would rather have the stadium rocking, the fans going about our own club, about our own players, as opposed to whatever's top of the pops at the moment. But I completely also get whenever you look at how Tottenham are using that stadium to essentially pay for itself and profit, why from a business sense like you would do that. I don't know. It is kind of a difficult one. I think we've had the rugby at Old Trafford for a long time. I don't think that's gonna go anywhere. Would you see NFL matches played in the north? I'm not too sure either, but I do think it's a distinct possibility. It's gonna have to be paid for somehow. We're in a lot of debt. The finances are pretty tight as it is. So if we built a new stadium or if we put a lot of money into this redevelopment, it's going to cost almost £1 billion either way. So we're going to have to pay for it somehow. So I can see that happening, really.
Pat.
That's when you brought a tear to me, little eye there. You did. You brought back all the memories.
Which one?
Oh, both of them. I've only got one eye. No, I do, because my father grew up in Manchester. So he's 60s, 70s, and 80s, and obviously I would be 90s down 2000s got onwards. So there's decades of my family going to Old Trafford. But there's no reason why the partial stadium can be revamped to include more seating to make more money. You know? Doesn't have to be a complete overhaul. It all depends on what you want to achieve.
On Monday.
We
went to, go on. Yeah.
Just going to do a couple of comments here. So one, Don, MEFC45 says, you're too old school, bro. Need to travel the world and see the best stadiums in the world. NW Northwest, I think it's main. Big up Andrew Williams in the house saying, I don't mind a complete rebuild. He's saying here, we need to stop living in the past. Bart, serious fan again, saying United used Rain Road in the post-war era for European encounters as Old Trafford was bombed during the war. If you tear Old Trafford down, where will you play your games? Jeff saying, sorry, Bath, those days are gone. The money is too big for that. And DK was saying, I agree with Bath Time about football only with the stadium. Just build the very best, better than all the others, more advanced than all the others as well. Just like Gillette, and I was thinking 16. The best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. Just going back to a few more comments here. Subvids is saying here, Bart is a serious fan. Yes, even better. Just to say it wouldn't be forgotten. There would be a place for photos, because he's saying here about having a museum, sort of memorabilia about Old Trafford if we do lose that stadium. DK Wilson saying, to add, there's nothing in capital letters worse for an opposing team than walking into a stadium and it's so awesome. It makes them scared, and football only can be configured to do that. That's a good point.
Sorry, on that, Amandi, if you ask most, if you listen to the likes of, who was the one that said it recently? I think it was Rio Ferdinand and Paul Scholes. They still said that it's Gary Neville, one of the worst grounds to go and play at because of the fear and the anxiety of the night before the playing there was Anfield. And they always said that about the Manchester derby. So it doesn't matter about the size of your stadium. Like, Liverpool fans make that place a fortress on derby day. So I wouldn't totally agree with that one, you know.
Yeah, I have to add, I don't think that I can't imagine professional football players are going to be scared by world-class facilities. Like, they're not going to walk through and go, I don't believe it, lads. They've got a cheese room and they're drinking port in there.
Like, got a bowling alley in the toilets.
Like, look at the architecture, boys. Like, we're not used to this level of modernism.
Come on. I mean, it's more about, if you walk out at Barcelona, I've been to Barcelona Stadium and I'm a Man United fan, and I was in awe. As soon as I walked out and just saw the pitch, everything else, I was like, wow. And then looked up the 3-4 tiers up. Amazing. What an arena.
You managed to get seats at the bottom. The seats I got
I had
were right bruv.
Oh, really?
They were right. My Instagram picture, my Instagram thingy
Yeah.
is me in the stadium.
But
Oh,
what were
you watching?
I couldn't see shit.
But what was
Cheer-
your feeling though?
How'd you get your glasses,
going to
B?
the stadium? Were you in
I was
all-
excited. Yeah, I was excited to go, but
Yeah.
we were so drunk. But look, that's a whole no. That's a
It's
football
rubbish
sport
from the
for
outside, though. The new camp, isn't it?
It's a
just
dump.
like a big car park.
Yeah,
That's what I
it wasn't
want.
what. Yeah, it wasn't what I was. It wasn't what I was expecting. But inside,
Yeah.
you understand. You know, you do get that feeling. But what I wanted to ask was about the fan experience. I wonder if we had, when we went, if we was able to interact. I saw some. I don't know where I saw it. Maybe I was dreaming it. What a new stadium was built, and you could interact with like the screens and all the. I think it was American football, and the American footballers could come out and look like they were touching your hand. As a fan experience, I would like to, if I was going to bring my son to Old Trafford, I would like to do that side of it. I know bath time you said you didn't want it Disney-fied.
Yeah.
You didn't want it Disney-fied, but there's certain things maybe for me, I'm nearly dead, so it's not going to help me, to be fair. But like my son and his son, he might only ever go once. So I would like it to be the very best experience that he could be. You see what I mean? And that's where, when you're saying about the fan experience part of it, I think they probably would need to incorporate, but maybe not for us. But you know, you were saying about having it more for tourists. I think it's always going to be that. I think it's always going to be that anyway.
But that's all outside the stadium. If you go to Real Madrid, you can go on tours, can't you? Or you can go to Barcelona on tours. They show you the trophy room. They show you the prestige and the history videos and all that kind of thing. Interaction. Press this button, you can see this player. Whatever you talk about there, like that's the fan experience. But for me, the real fan experience, beyond all that, is the fact that you're going out and you walk out. You want to take your breath away as soon as you walk out and you see the pitch, and you see the stadium from inside. And then you go and see a game and you feel the atmosphere, because you want to sort of maintain a good atmosphere within someone there on the comments or on the panel mentioned earlier about Emirates, and it's a bit wide open. And compared to Highbury, I've been Highbury many times. You know, that stadium could kick off with noise. Even Spurs, the old stadium, when he used to sing, the noise would be kept in the stadium. And like that. So these are factors that are really key. I think you have to consider fan experience, opposing teams come in there, the atmosphere. You want it to be on them. You want to be on top of them.
Yeah,
this makes
running
difference.
track.
Exactly.
Stadium.
Like Roma and remember Bayern Munich used to have their Olympic stadium with the running track. It's like miles away from the fans, you know.
I don't want an oval either. I want like stands. Like I mean, DK Wilson.
So when you say oval, so because they all, to be fair, they all look like a toilet bowl.
Yeah.
So when you say stands, do you mean internally or like X so you can see them externally? What's the?
Well, so DK Wilson was talking earlier about, he said like configured or something like that. And we probably were a little bit unfair talking about cheese rooms. But I think what he's talking about is that at the new White Hart Lane, they've basically copied something from Dortmund. Like I think Dortmund have a famous, they have something famous called the Yellow
Wall. Yeah,
or something like that. So if we're going to build the new stadium, like what we absolutely have to do is have something that's similar, to that for the Stretty end. So, and also I want squares. Like I want everyone boxed in. When I look at the Emirates,
squares.
Yeah, I want squares. I want rectangles. You know, like I want when someone's taking a corner to fear for their life because, a man's 2 feet away from him and could get him. Like that's the fear that I want in opposition players. If we design the perfect football stadium, we'll make it big and round, and it'll be like an American football stadium. I've never been to the Emirates, and I have been to Highbury, and it was great. It was a terrible stadium, but it was packed and it was noisy, and that's what I want from my football club. Because when you talk about the fan experience, Mr. B, this kind of turns me off, because it sounds to me that it's more about sort of consuming something rather than being part of something. And that's what I worry about, is that when you talk about your son and your grandson and things going to the football, I want that to be similar to what it was like when my grandfather and when Pat's like family went to the football. So there's this continuous line of people who have had a kind of a similar and recognizable experience. And I mean, can you imagine like your grandfather's finding out that, yeah, like you get your phone out and you wiggle on it and like Marianne Fellaini starts waving at you from a big screen. Like, no, thank you.
Oh,
God, did anybody? Did I miss out anybody on that part of the conversation? I'll be digging into this chat on Monday.
Well, yeah, I was going through the chat. Do you want me to touch on a few more comments? I know Jeff does, because he always gets upset when we miss him out. Here we go, Jeff. The opposing squad, being a closet, was leaking pipes, even in the state-of-art new stadium as well. Andrew Williams is saying here, I was there at the weekend. Stadium is still all right, but obviously could be better. Jeff saying here, I've just done that, haven't I? Sorry. Binoculars for the spirit of dreams whilst eating Kino's kitchen prawn sandwich. Perfect. Pick up Stephanie. Kate Cadet's in the house. Thank you for joining us. I love Old Trafford and don't want to see it knocked down. And I've always said we should renovate it. However, I think we have to move with the times, which means build a new stadium. So he's even changed his mind. I agree with Mr. B, says Bart. There are people from Southeast Asia, India, and the US that come to Old Trafford as a once-in-a-lifetime pilgrimage every year. And Doom's Boom saying, in the end, it is the theatre of dreams. Idea over object. Whatever it is, it means one and only thing, and one only thing. You're selling an idea, not aesthetics. Stephanie's saying here, should it be standing section in the new Old Trafford? Is that legal now? It's a balancing act. It has to be economical, feasible, says Andrew Williams. And Jeff reckons we can get 150,000 in there. Ronex saying, Mercedes-Benz Arena, Old Trafford. Andrew again, Spurs Stadium is the benchmark for this country. Not sure what is better outside of the UK. Talking about squares and round stadiums. Yeah, we don't want a round stadium. I agree with that. Lots of good comments. Andrew saying Man United are the New York Yankees of British football. Liverpool the Boston Red Sox. Yankees rebuilt. Red Sox renovated. Loads of comments, guys. Sorry if I'm missing. DK Wilson, I'm just going to jump on in. I haven't heard from you for ages. Bringing in your acoustics experts to focus on the sound. That's what I was trying to say. What bath time is going towards is what I'm talking about. No ovals and that crap. Make teams intimidated by the sound when they're walking. Yeah, that's what I think is the fan experience. I totally agree. You've got to look at factors like that. When you walk in there, the noise, the passion, you want to come out with like burst eardrums and just buzzing. You want to have that butterflies if you're opposing fans going in there, being in awe. You know, you want to be a player giving an interview saying, I can't wait to go to Old Trafford. As soon as I see the fixture list, I want to play at Old Trafford. You want European players to be saying, I want to play at Old Trafford, you know, if we're in the Champions League, for example.
If. Yeah, if. Look, I don't know if that's a long way away or not, to be fair. Yeah, anybody else want to finish up on this before I move on to the next one?
What do you think's going to happen? I 100% think that we're going to rebuild. Like, we're going to make a new one.
Yeah, I think they're going to make a new one. I think they're going to make a new one.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it'll be a new stadium.
Oh, God.
I used to think when I was a kid, I used to watch games at Old Trafford or hear about Old Trafford on the radio or whatever. Then I'd hear the cricket was at Old Trafford. So I actually thought
Same place.
that they were hitting sixes and getting boundaries at Old Trafford. But it turns out they had a cricket ground called Old Trafford as well. But yeah.
I wonder if we could use like the cricket ground like as a temporary home.
It wouldn't be big enough.
It's not. You don't like round oval stadiums.
No, I don't at all. But where else are we going to play? I mean, like, I think it would be quite fun to go to the Millennium Stadium or to Wembley for a year or something. But
it'll be more than a year bath time.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Is it's like the lifeblood of Manchester United isn't like social media. It's not Twitter. It's the people that go to the stadium like week in, week out, and they should be the number one like considerations in all of this for me. So I think that's why the cricket club might be an all right compromise, because we're not going Main Road, we're not going to Goodison Park or Anfield or anything like that. Where else are we going to go?
Could they do the Millennium Stadium?
I think so. I mean, like, it would be very good for me personally. But it would Millennium Stadium or Wembley are the
I just
two
think Wembley. I just think Wembley's too far.
Yeah.
I just think because I listen, I live in Wembley, so hallelujah. If that happens, then good grief. But to be, I just think it's too far. It's 350 miles away, man. Those people who go by tram to the game, all of a sudden, what are they not going? You understand?
Yeah,
you know,
that's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't agree with it being in Wembley. I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know how they're gonna work it logistically, but I don't agree with it coming to Wembley.
Just a quick one. I know they spent a lot of money in the Millennium Stadium. I've been there a couple of times for games. But what's going on there? Nice bit of land, huge stadium. What goes on there? No teams playing there. It's just empty, isn't it? I don't hear anything. Did anyone hear about anything being played at Millennium Stadium? Even the concerts? I don't think anything goes on.
I think they do have concerts and things there, don't they? I mean, like, I'm not sure. It might be like the O2. Like the O2 was the Millennium Dome, wasn't it? And it was just like just rubbish for years and years and years. Like Andrew's down that part of the way. Like maybe he can tell us that. Shut up, Bart. Like that's a good one, to be honest. That's the women's football ground in Wigan that holds 14,000 people. That's one of your better ones, to be fair, Bart. You got me there.
Oh, Bart is such a troublemaker. Look, right. I don't know, man. Him and his alter ego, what was his name? John White or whatever it was back in the day. But yeah, Pat's laughing. Pat knows what I'm talking about.
Joe White was a serious man.
That's the one. Joe White. Well, look, guys, we did come here to have two topics to talk about. Yes, here we go. Manchester United are looking at a overhaul. Somebody in the chat or maybe one of you lot guys there can explain to me why we need an overhaul and how bad we have been. It's obvious, but there might be people out there who don't get it. But Manchester United look set to overhaul the approach to player acquisition in the summer, with players in the final year of their contract thought to be favoured targets. Under new minority owner Jim Ratcliffe, as well as the imminent arrival of a director of football, United will attempt to adhere to profit and sustainability guidelines by targeting players approaching the final 12 months of their contract. ESPN are reporting that Joshua Kimmich, Jonathan David and Kepran Teram are among the club's targets for the next transfer window, with all three of these players out of contract in 2025. Thoughts? I'm going to give this to you, Stefan.
Yeah, do you know what, Mr. B? It's not a bad idea in theory. Now, I think if we look back 12 months ago, we had Mason Mount, obviously, in the last year of his Chelsea deal, and we still ended up paying close to £60 million for that deal. So I don't know if it's too much of a bargaining chip at the moment. I will silently reserve judgment on that. But I mean, look, there are some good players in the final year of their contract. If that can be used, all the better, I guess. You give the list there, of course. Kimmich, Thuram. I think Ivan Toney's is also coming into the last year of his contract. So there are players in that kind of situation. Personally, I would prefer to go after players with release clauses as well, because I think that's just a more guaranteed way of getting a decent price anyway, or at least knowing what we're going to pay ahead of time. But I don't think it's a bad plan in theory. I guess I'll wait for the execution. I know that we're going to have to overhaul everything with the transfer side of things because it's just been shambolic. I think I read something like since Sir Alex has left, we've signed over 40 players, and how many would we say are genuine successes? Like 3, 4 out of like 40. It's a pretty depressing figure, but I think it's all got to change anyway. I guess that'll kind of lead us into the data stuff as well, we did touch about at the start of the show, so hopefully that can be of use to us. But it's going to be one of those wait and sees. Obviously, the new CEO's in place. We're waiting for director of football, so I'm guessing the entire strategy will eventually change and alter and hopefully get with the times and be a lot more successful.
Pat, yeah, I know you. Did you used to? What was that game? You used to Championship
Premiership Manager, where you just go in and look for a 5-star player and then decide them.
Right. So this is. I assume. Listen, I'm ignorant. I used to play the game. I'm going to assume. I'm going to put it out there that maybe the data side of it is that how you would see it being driven as well. You look for a 5-star player in your. I don't know what they would have. What would they have? What it would be on computer? Is this how it works?
It's all like I tell you. So
don't bath time, please. Just don't, bro. Just don't, man. I'm a simple guy, man. Just allow me, please.
Yeah.
Like I was watching David Gill's interview there recently. He was saying that Alex Ferguson didn't only have a little black book of millions of scouts. He also had people within the areas of where the scouts lived of all the leagues, and he could always ask around somebody to get a proper opinion about somebody instead of just going by one person's opinion and signing. So what happens now is David Brailsford's coming in and he's going to be very high on the data analytics, and we have some existing people in the club that are going to be there, and they've been just there's Dominic Jordan who's there. And he's at the club as director of data science, and he's brought in a few of his own cronies from the last company he worked in, and he's brought a new lad in called Nick Grimshaw. But what they're going to be doing now is it's not going to be like last season where Eric Ten Hag came in. Who would you want to sign? Oh, I liked Malacia. I saw him play last year. I'll get him. Are you going to sign? Who else you want to sign? I'm going to sign Martinez because he played for my team, and so on. I think I'll get Anthony now because he played for my team. It shouldn't be like that at all. It should be Eric Ten Hag walks into, let's say, David Brailsford office and goes, I need a player. Where do you need a player? I need a player who can play with both feet. I need a player who can play back against the goal, who can shoot from outside the box, whatever the requirements may be. And then they'll come back to him with 5 players and go, right, you can pick one of these 5 players. Here's the 5 files. Go and have a look at it. And then tell us what one it is more to your liking to, right? And then we'll tell you if it's possibly financially, can we afford him, his age, his fitness, and everything comes into it. It's not just we want to get a new player. Who are we getting? Oh, we need a centre midfielder. Okay, let's get Jadon Sancho.
Bath time. Do you agree with Pat?
Yeah and no. Like, what I like about this is that at least it's some kind of strategy in it. Like, I'm not sure it's the right one though. Like, so when you're looking at like data and things like that, one of the big problems that you have is that sometimes that there's too much bias put on certain like metrics and things like that. So, like, for example, in our fan base, like, we always talk about ballers and things like that, and we put too much emphasis on players that can half turn and stuff like that, and not enough on like runners and things. So when you're using data, it's got to be in conjunction with a plan. So I think that we should actually get a director of football in before we start looking at like the profile of players that we want to sign, or I feel that we're getting down the same old kind of problems. But this to me strikes more about just a way of cutting costs, to be honest. Like, everything's got out of control. Like, we've got a huge
so you think this is cost, you think this is more down the cost cutting route?
Yeah, because I think like it's about like, so when you're looking at FFP, essentially it's a pretty simple calculation where it's transfer fee plus contract plus yearly contract divided by the amount of time on the contract, and you're only allowed to spend a certain amount. So, like, even though we paid, was it 50 million for Ananda? Jesus, he worked out as cheaper than De Gea would, because De Gea was on ridiculous wages. And my concern about going after players that have a year left on their contract is that they're gonna ask for the moon, because essentially what you're doing is you're asking them to like give up a free transfer to come a year early, and they're going to miss out on 20 million, 30 million in like signing on fees and wages and bonuses and things. So I'm not completely sure that this is a great idea. I think it would be better just to sign players that are undervalued, as opposed to getting someone like Joshua Kimmich, who will be another 350 grand a week player with a 20 million signing on fee. But once again, I don't really know a lot about how transfers and scouting and things like that all work. But at least there's a strategy to it. At least it's like, look, we're going for players in the last year of their contract. Like, great.
If we get someone like your man Paul Williams in, who seems to be the business from what we read and what we hear about him, he can read in between the lines of all this data analytics. And
who's Paul Williams?
What did I say? Did I not say Paul Williams? Did I not? I didn't say Paul Daniels, did I?
No, who is this guy though? Do you mean Paul Mitchell?
Paul Mitchell, that's the one.
Paul Williams sang for the Temptations.
Yeah. But Mitchell.
Yeah, but I mean, Mitchell wasn't at a top club, was he? And that's one of the problems with the director of football like him, is that he built up Tottenham and Monaco are his big successes, right? And yeah, exactly. But none of them are they're kind of like sell to buy clubs, aren't they? Like that Monaco team was absolutely amazing. Mbappe, Fabinho, Silva, like even Mendy, like great players and things like that. But they never really won anything. Like any of these clubs that he was at, they're just like what his success has come down to is selling players on for a lot of money. And I'm not sure that that's what United need. I think that we should be judged on trophies and stuff like that. So I'm not so, like someone like Paul Williams or even Paul Mitchell. They need to make a step up, don't they? Like we're asking them to come in and compete at a higher level, so they have to do it as well as the players that they're signing. I mean,
on Monday, we haven't got your thoughts on this. I know you're a championship manager, King. Do you think it's better to be data driven? And obviously Pat's talking about maybe the 5. I don't think it's ever going to be more than 3, to be fair, but and give the players a choice. Do you think that's the way? Do you think it's a money saving scam like bath time does?
Yeah, it is a bit of a money-saving thing, but these are the times we live in with the FFP. It's crippling everybody. We have to be really careful how you go about your business. The bottom line is we need to get the best quality players. And I do think you want to buy players that are young. That's our ID, that's our ethos, to buy young players, youth. Look at our logo when we start the show. It's all about youth, Man United, and bringing players through. Traditionally, that's how we've always done it. Going back to Championship Manager, yes, I was a Don Gargan at that game, but I lost relationships from it because I was spent too much time doing my work, doing my studying to make a good team. And that is involving data. It is. It's about looking at data, looking at stats and reading that and getting young players in who've got the potential and training them up. It's all, I mean, it's so real to life, that game. It's amazing how many players. And there's one player called Rooney who plays for Copenhagen who scored against us recently, who's a star boy from even before anyone even heard about him. That's how they do it. But I do think that the 3 players mentioned are familiar with us. I mean, I'm sure Stefan knows about the guy from Nice, Thuram. I'm sure we all know about Braithwaite. I call him Braithwaite, like the guy from Into the Dragon. It's not Braithwaite, is it? You know, the centre-back, left-foot centre-back from Everton, who's highly touted. And the other guy is
Jonathan David.
No, not was it Jonathan David? Maybe Jonathan David as well.
Mitchell.
So they all fit a profile, don't they? And I like the idea of that. It's about time we go a different route. Just to go back on what your point there about Mitchell, I think he's done such good work. It doesn't matter if he hasn't won anything. I think he's won by doing his job successfully, by building a good team at Monaco. You remember, I'm sure Bartek can remember every player in that squad because they were so memorable. Then and also doing what he did with Southampton and with Pochettino and with Koeman and doing his work at Spurs as well. He's done his job at that level, and it's not for him. It's not about the club getting success. It's about him being successful and bringing in top players, which they've benefited from. So I don't think that you can gauge it on what the club actually does. I think you should gauge it on what the players he brings in and how good they are in the long run. But yeah, I like the new strategy. I think it's a good way. It's better than what we've tried to achieve over the last few years, just spending money, thinking we're big boys. We'll take this guy. He's hot. He's not. And it always ends up in failure. Bath time's key though. What you said about character, that's something we need to go back to. Youth, character, and hunger. We want those three attributes are key for me. And sometimes in Championship Manager, going back to that point, you can't in the early days, you can't gauge someone's character on the computer. So that's where we have to do the extra work. And I want to see these guys doing so much work that, like me, their women would leave them because they're playing too much Championship Manager, or in their case, doing too much scouting and data investigation.
So you want people's marriages to break up?
Yes, that would be evidence for me
because they're working so hard.
Yeah.
Did you dress up as in a suit on Monday for cup finals and things?
I certainly did. I most certainly did. It's a brilliant game. But yeah, I'm over that now.
You recorded commentaries in the toilet and everything.
Exactly. I've got a new job working on the Man United.
No, but it can only help the club. It's the best thing.
But he identified players that were sold. Is that a thing that you'd be happy with one day? That we're buying players to be selling them?
Just like who, for example? You talk about young.
No,
players?
I'm talking about Mitchell. Obviously, he identified the players, but right.
Yeah,
so
but the reason they were sold is because they were selling clubs. So if he brought in Mane to Southampton, they sold him because they couldn't afford to keep him there, and that's the way they operate. Someone comes along, that's how they make the money. That's how they sustain themselves.
But
With Man United, if you get a young Mane in, you get a young Mane in, he's likely to stay a bit longer because he's already made at a big club. So I don't think it's a case of that. I just want to touch on.
I think that there is a big distinction here where players like Dele Alli, Mane, stuff like that, who were brought in, they were brought in for a reason, which was not to win things, but to be sold and to get the club to build the club up and things like that. So you're looking at different criteria, and you're also like the managers are working under different expectations where they're like, we've got a player with high potential here, so like. I mean, I remember reading like Warnock talking about Abel Tabarat, the Maverick at QPR, and he told him something like, "If you're rubbish in this game, I'm still going to play. I'm just going to keep playing you until you get good." You can't do that at United. Like the players have got to come in and they've got to fight for their place, and they're not going to be indulged the same way that these players would be at a Southampton or even a Tottenham. So it's a different criteria of what you're looking for. And under that set of criteria, we haven't seen a track record yet. Like the other stuff we've seen suggests very strongly that he'd be brilliant at it because he can identify talent really well. But he doesn't have the track record for that yet. So I think it's more of a gamble than people would think it is.
Yeah, but it'd be more of a gamble to stay the way we are by the time.
Sorry?
It'd be more of a gamble to stay the way we are at the moment and the mentality of what we're signing players year in, year out. Like last year and the year before were probably our best years for signing players because they made a bit of sense when it started off. Malacia came in, he looked like a young up-and-coming defender. Then we signed Martinez, looked good. Then we were going to buy Frankie de Jong. Then all of a sudden we went mad and spent the same money we were going to get in a young midfielder and Frankie de Jong, blew it all and Casemiro, who we were only going to get 2 to the 3.
Look, don't talk about Cake Boy like that, yeah?
No,
Leave
no, no. But
Casemiro
it just
alone.
no. But then all of a sudden we brought Mason Mount out of nowhere, and we're like,
I
regardless
still
of how
don't
good
understand
Mason
that
Mount is,
signing.
no one
I
knew. No one knew where he was playing or what he was doing.
Hmm.
We didn't know what
I
we
don't
bought him
un-
for.
And then look
I'm
at
not-
that Ollie, the signings that Ollie wanted to get in, which like Haaland, Bellingham, like Nathan Ake, like that looked far more sensible. So I suppose it's both sides of the coin. But the thing that's good, Pat, about this, and the reason why it's a sort of sensible gamble is we're taking power away from the manager to make decisions, so that we're not held hostage by stupid signings. So I am for it, but I also think it's important to say it's not a quick fix, and it might not work, but it's a step in the right direction.
Especially after the start, you told me how we made the Anthony acquisition. Ten Hag went above Morta. Like I'm sure that's the tip of the iceberg of what's going on in the club for the past couple of years.
Oh well, Anthony's probably going to get Ten Hag the sack if he doesn't drop him. But look, we'll see, guys. Is there anything else that you want to talk about, Stefan? You've been sitting down there quietly digesting what Bath been saying.
I have been listening to everyone's conversation. I think if just go back to Paul Mitchell, from what it looks to be in most of the press outlets, it looks like he's coming in or potentially coming in as recruitment. It's not actually as director of football, and it does seem to be looking like they're looking at double appointment. So that's why you're still seeing Dan Ashworth linked. So if it is a case that we have a director of football overseeing the project, setting the agenda, so to speak, setting the tone of what we want to do, where we want to get to, and Paul Mitchell's job is to find players to help fit into that type of system, I think that's fine. I get the concerns that Bath Time was showing as well, though, with obviously Paul Mitchell's track record, very impressive in terms of picking up these young players and getting them sold on for profit. And that meant that Southampton, Tottenham, Leipzig's, the AS Monaco could be more sustainable. I get that. But I would also agree with what Amanda had said, that if they're at Manchester United, there's not a lot of clubs who can really go out there and bully us in the transfer market. We don't have to sell. It's not like when a player made it big at Southampton, like Van Dijk or Mane, where it's like they outgrew the club. It wouldn't happen here to the same degree. But I do think there's a distinction in going after just purely young players and then going after what I would call the elite level young players. You would be looking at Haaland or your Bellinghams. There's a big difference in selling those types of players as opposed to looking at what Brighton are doing or looking towards like South American markets and building a team out of all that as well. So I think there is a distinction to be made there. And yeah, look, it's going to be an interesting one. I think it needs to change. It's clearly been broke for a very long time, and just throwing money at it isn't fixing the problem. So I'm all for trying everything. I really am.
I think there's a saying, isn't there? Too many chefs spoil the broth or the brew. And I do sometimes think to myself, man, all you got to do is manage 11 players and have some backup with a good youth academy. That's basically what you need to do to have a good, successful side. And that's how it's like a conveyor belt. You just, one player drops out, you got one player coming in, you've groomed them up to come into the side. Ideally, in theory, that's how it's supposed to work. So to have all these job roles that we have now in modern football is sometimes I think, are people just getting paid out here? It's become a bit ridiculous.
Amanda, we're the only club who hasn't got any of these roles. Everybody else has them. Everybody else has them.
How many scouts have we got?
You know, we're still writing our match previews in Braille. We're that far behind.
Oh god! But do you see what I'm saying? The simplicity. I like to keep things simple and winning form. Look at Liverpool.
Yeah, but Amanda, we're not on the side of the pitch and slice the orange at half time either. You know.
Yeah.
You say that, Amanda. It's simple, but you've got to go through players' heads and players' mentalities as well, because I'm going to go back. I said I always kind of go to our level of football. You had chaos in your game on Saturday.
Yeah.
Was that down to bad management? Was that down to bad coaching?
Well,
you understand? You see what I'm saying?
No, you're right. You're right. Because according to the group chat today, it's all about the reason we're going wrong is because of bad management. I've been told it's all to do with me. So it just goes to show. But I haven't gone about things the right way, as in being ruthless with discipline, because there's not so much online. It's not prize fighting, there's no prize at the end where we're going to get paid. We're paying, so you have to balance it differently. But you're right. By throwing that in my face, I am preaching simplicity, but I can't. I'm struggling even at my lowest level that I'm managing a Sunday team. You see what I'm saying? So, but I do think that the fundamentals of it. If you to set out, we sat here today and we said, what's the basics of running a football club? You have the first 11, you have a 22-man squad, a bit of experience, bit of youth. Beyond that, if you want to, instead of buying players, look at Crew Alexander. They stayed in the league for many years based on their recruitment of young players, just coming in. David Platt was there at one stage. And man, he got dropped out from Man United. He's gone to Crew under Dario Grady. And, so they've looked out, they've seeked out players to do that. And that's made them sustainable. But I think if you do it at a higher level, like Manchester United, that's the same formula applies. All these stupid jobs, sporting director, CEO, but I don't think it wasn't there before and teams were successful. I just think simplify it, make it like Fergie did, then and just understand what the formula is. What's the mechanics behind running a football club, and just keep it simple like that. Because I just think we get out of hand now. Now we've got psychologists and all this meditation.
Yeah, but you need psychologists with this new generation of
yeah, because they're soft. They're soft, as they say,
Yeah, I know that. Are we allowed to say that?
No, but we're not dissing psychologists for a start.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, they get paid very well for what they do.
But like Amondo, right? So what you're saying is that you think that you need a simplified structure, and that it's been demonstrated that with a simplified structure you can get success, right? That's basically what your point is. Why we have like all these different positions is because it means that you're not relying on one man, like, so that there's like a sort of support network, as it were, because everything that is wrong with United at the moment is essentially trying to fill the vacuum of Fergie, and it has been for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And with these other clubs, like when Klopp and when Pep and when Arteta go, because there's a structure that's there that supported them, that it gives them a better chance of success with the next guy that comes in, because there's continuity of both personnel and, more importantly, of ideas and philosophy. So that's why we want these structures in place, because otherwise we're putting all of the responsibility and all of the power into one man, and that doesn't always work out, as you've seen from Mourinho, Van Gaal, Ole, and so on. So that's why we want these structures in place.
Ta-da.
The Irishman are nodding. Do you agree? I mean, I'm trying to bump heads with bath time here. Whose side are you on?
I'm a modern day manager. I'm fully behind. I fully agree with bath time. Like the problem, I think the biggest problem with Eric Ten Hag now is that there's gonna be structure implemented into the club, and if he doesn't get in line with it, and if he's not happy with it, he'll only be shown one way. That's the door. So if he thinks he's going to be buying the players next year the way he did already, because his track record for the last 6 or 7 hasn't been great.
Yeah, I mean, like I would agree with what Pat and Bath Time were also saying there. I think what we've kind of been doing for the last 10 years is trying to replace a man who cannot be replaced, and I think you can't just do that with one man, because Fergie wasn't just the manager; he was the coach, he was director of football, he set the long-term plan, he rebuilt several teams over his tenureship as manager, and I just don't think you can do all that in the modern game. I think you need continuity. I think that stops us jumping from polar opposites in terms of playing style and our overall philosophy and approach to the game. You know, jumping from Van Gaal to Mourinho to Ole to Ten Hag, it's left us with a squad that's been built by 4 or 5 different managers down to their specifications as well. So I think you need a better structure, and I think that's why Radcliffe and Ineos are doing that immediately. I think that's their very first steps, and I think it's for a good reason, really.
I just want to read this out because it's making me laugh. It's Vincent. How you doing, Vincent? Vincent, from Brummie, but he's a big time Man United fan. Goes up to home games. He says, Monday, it's like the Man United gender. With Man United, we had others helping you. You would struggle yourself and have a mental breakdown if you would need the support of the team to help you. Can I just speak? There's 4 of us here, part of the Man United agenda. It's a small crew, and we're running a big ship. Big up the Man United agenda. We've got over 1,000 subscribers. So
we got 3,400, 3,500. Yeah, that's a lot more than. Yeah, I know it's over, but you need to push it a bit, bro.
Yeah. So we're a big ship, but we've realised over time the formula to make things work. Whereas Stefan down here is working on his own. You know what I'm saying? Building a great channel. Go and subscribe to your United Philosophy guys. But you know what I'm saying? So we've worked through trial and error. We work out formula. Who's on board with us? Who's not? You need good people in charge to keep it going. Last week, Pat, you were talking brilliantly about management and that kind of thing. You need good people in good roles. Unfortunately, how can you gauge how good these so many different roles are with these people coming in? Is their intention good? Do they really want to make the most of to get Man United successful? How are they accountable for what they do or what they don't do? Like the manager is, or like players are when they're not performing, getting ripped by the fans and everything else. So I think the Man United agenda is a smoothly run machine at the moment, well oiled, because we know our roles and we respect one another, and we've got one thing in mind, and that's the channel. Likewise, these guys should have the club in mind. And clearly, with all these roles, we've had them for the last 10 years, they're not performing correctly. So someone has to make them accountable. That's why I say reduce them and, reduce them and make it more simple, simplify things so we know whoever's on board is with us. Do you know what I'm saying? Not all these stupid... Look at the scout situation. That was a great example. We've got 100 plus scouts, more than any other club. Why? They're getting paid to get a free ride out here.
It doesn't matter how good your scouts are, Amandi. It's the person who chooses the player from the scout.
Yes.
And that goes for anything you do. Like, even when it just comes down to what I do, a subcontractor is only as good as the management that looks after him. So,
are you the management or the subcontractor?
The management. So,
this is how I see it.
Right. So, Brailsford and Radcliffe, their attitude and mentality has to stand down through the club. And if you're not on board, they're going to move you on. Because it'd be similar to how Ferguson and Gill used to run Old Trafford. Their mentality went through the club. And if you weren't on board with them, I'd imagine you'd be gone as well. So with Radcliffe and Brailsford, it's going to be interesting to see who they bring in and who goes out.
I can't wait for the summer.
I'd also like to point out, Monday, that we haven't had these structures in place. Like you're saying that we should simplify. We've been too simple. Like Gill and Fergie basically were sort of quite similar to Darth Vader and the Emperor. It was just 2 of them like running the whole thing. And then
like United Philosophy. One man running the whole thing, yeah.
But it's like if Stefan gets sick, didn't you like your power get knocked out for a couple of days so you couldn't go live?
Yeah.
It's because you don't have that support structure around you to help out. You haven't got someone to come in, sort of like and
clear the snow away.
Yeah.
Well, Steph, we'll run an extension lead from Dublin up to you.
I'll get a generator or something, petrol powered, and we'll be good for.
Let's get a Monday on a bicycle. We can power it for you. But the thing is, a Monday is we don't. It's football is simple. Running anything is never simple, and you need the best people around you. You need everyone to buy in, and you need people. You're completely correct when you talk about accountability and stuff like that. But this is what a structure does, is that you can say that the manager isn't responsible and accountable for signings. He's now responsible for coaching players. So if they're not improving, that's on him. If they don't have the base standard, that's on whoever identified them. If we paid too much for them, that's on whoever has gone out and signed them. And that's where it comes in, because it's now easier to identify where problems are and upgrade.
Can I just jump in on that point?
Yeah.
So we're going back to what Paul Williams.
Who is Paul Williams?
I know you want.
Who is this guy?
He's the temptation.
Hold on. I need to log out and log back in with Paul Williams.
Paul Mitchell. Go back to Paul Mitchell. You made him accountable for his job by his lack of success with the clubs he's with. But we're saying now here that it's not about that. The manager's responsible for success on the pitch. Certain jobs, sporting director will be responsible for a certain role. That's how you make an account. So every time he has a supervision, he'll say, right, what are your goals? What have you achieved? It's not about, it might not be success on the pitch. It might be success with what your job title.
Yeah, but that's going to be defined.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
going to be defined by the structure.
So my point is, leave Paul Mitchell alone. You know, you're downgrading him.
This is your new point. Is that you've gone from saying, like, we need more simplification to stop bullying Paul Mitchell.
Yeah,
right. I will accept that. I will accept that as a point. The different things. But what my point is, right, is that it's not that stupid to say that we should simplify things, because when things are simple, they're easier to understand. But what we've really got to do, and what this whole structure about is about responsibility. Like, who is responsible, who is accountable for all these different things. And when there's clear definitions of what people's responsibilities are, you can progress a little bit, because Gill and Ferguson ruled like a feudal kingdom. Like, they were the masters of it. They were involved in everything. Fergie, you know, he got his nose in absolutely everywhere, which is why we ended up getting done by that horse in the end. But someone like Paul Mitchell, he's the guy who's responsible for going and getting the players that live into the director of football's dream of what he wants, right? So it's now like a sort of a pipeline or a conveyor belt, like, you know, like on a factory or something like that. And that makes it easier to deal with, like, losing people or upgrading performance and things. It's not a bad thing, but you're completely correct that everything has to be defined. And that's what Ineos have come in to do, because you don't get to be Britain's richest man ever by being a complete idiot. You get there by, you know, having a bit of luck, but also understanding how things work. And hopefully that can cross over with Manchester United and we can get back to where we want to be. And shout out to Paul Mitchell and Paul Anderson and Paul Williams, the rest
Paul
of them.
Williams.
Paul Williams. Paul Anderson, I think, is a film director. But yeah, shout out to the Temptations. Love them.
And
Paul
Andy Williams and
Paul
Williams.
Trouble, great DJ, died 2019. Good friend of mine as well. Trouble in the house. Great comment here by Stephanie Griffith. She's saying the Man United philosophy. The Man United. Can you do the honest, Stephen? Stephen, can you do the honest, mate? My lips are tired.
Yeah, what have we got? The Man United philosophical agenda. There we go. That is a mouthful.
That's the merger. That's breaking news.
It's a merger.
There's a merger happening right now as we speak. Thanks, Stephanie.
Guys, look, it's been a good one. We've changed Amonde's mind a couple of times. He went from not wanting a stadium to wanting a stadium. We've had him changing his mind on Paul Williams, who was Pat's good mate. Yeah, good mate. Yeah. And now we've found out that there's going to be a merger going on. Now, obviously, Amonde wants it streamlined, so I'm going to assume it's just going to be Amonde, and everybody else can get stuff.
The Amonde agenda.
There you go. So, guys in the chat, look, thanks for watching. We will be back next week with another full agenda, with something else. Have a couple of topics to discuss. Look, I'm not gonna say to I'm not gonna ask where we can find my friend down there, because you should already know. The Man United. Look, let me just. You know what? Look, I am going to do it. I said I wasn't going to do it, but I'm going to do it. Go on.
There we go.
There
We're
you
going for a
go.
plug. Okay, we are.
Yeah, go on.
I'm up. I'm up here. I see myself. Yes, guys. Thanks so much for having me. As always on the agenda. Really appreciate being on with the guys, and as always, really fun and informative chat and some banter on there as well. I'm live plenty this week as well. Should be live over the next couple of days. Plenty of videos going up on my channel if you want to check it out. United Philosophy on YouTube. And yeah, guys, thanks so much for joining in with us. Really do appreciate everyone and the guys having me on again.
There you go, Pat. I would say the same thing to you, Pat, but you're here every Wednesday and you're part of the furniture.
I need to remind you, Paul Williams is every week from now.
So, guys, look, if you are still here, look, please hit that like button if you haven't already. If you are new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed to the philosophy, you know what you need to do, guys. And it's me, Mr. B. Say goodbye, and we will be back tomorrow. God willing, we're out.